What's up, PML? It's Mally Rojo here with the Rookie Watch for Week 8. As I mentioned in the last video, we're going to do a little bit different this time. Instead of the top 5 performance of the week, we're going to go ahead and do a kind of mid-season recap, see where all these rookies are at statistic-wise halfway through the season, see who could be possible contenders for the Rookie of the Year on each side of the ball. So let's just jump right into it. Let me head over to the stats. We'll take a look. We'll go ahead and peep each individual position on the offensive side of the ball. We'll do it a little different on defense. So let's get down to our first rookie. So looking at the quarterbacks kind of before I started this video, I don't think any of the quarterbacks are set to have a Rookie of the Year performance, mostly just because a lot of them, their touchdown to interception ratio is pretty bad. Some of them are borderline. They could maybe change up their game and get positive and possibly make a run, but right now it's looking like I don't think any of these quarterbacks will make a run. But we'll go ahead and look at the top guys. The first one here, the one with the most yards at least, is Jarrett Guarantano from Green Bay. He has 1,612 passing yards, but he only has 4 touchdowns. He has 14 interceptions. His completion rating is 64% and a pretty bad QB rating of 68.9. He does get it done on the ground a little bit with this guy. I think he uses him in options and stuff like that. He does have 100 and I looked it up. He has 27 rushes for 179 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he's actually one of the he's the top rusher as far as rookie quarterbacks go, and he's up there as far as all quarterbacks in rushing statistics, but he's just not getting it done. Passing the ball, too many interceptions. Green Bay hasn't been as focused this year. He mentioned he's got school in a lot of finals, which you can't blame him. You got to focus on that stuff. But hopefully next year maybe he'll take a step. He can be more focused, pay more attention, and take these games a little bit more seriously. I think he's had to give up some sims and free wins. I think both times he played the Vikings. Vikings played the CPU, so that could be why the interception ratio is so bad there. It might not even be the user there. So we'll have to see next year when he's a little bit more focused how that works out. Just a little bit down here is our second quarterback. Davis Mills, 1,471 yards, 8 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 64 completion percentage, and 71.4 rating. So he's a little bit better there in the efficiency. Same amount of interceptions as Guarantano, but he's getting more touchdowns, so the ratio is a little bit better. Completion's a little bit better. Rating is a little bit better. He's one that I would say is kind of borderline. If he could turn his game around, he can get that touchdown interception ratio positive. Perhaps he could be one of those guys that makes a run, but we'll kind of have to see how he plays. If he continues having the bad touchdown to interception ratio, I don't see it, but he's at least close enough there that he could close the gap and maybe even turn it around and see where he ends up at the end of the year. So the other guy here is Josh Jackson, and he has 1,255 yards. He has 10 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 46% completion rating, and a 57.8 rating. So he actually has a little bit closer of a touchdown to interception ratio, but it looks like the completion percentage is really hurting him on his QB rating, because it's pretty low. I think that's the lowest amongst all rookies at 46%. So he's pretty inaccurate. He might be able to close that gap of the touchdown to interception ratio, but I'm not sure. And with that completion percentage, I don't know if he can quite make it up, but we'll see. But he's another one that could be borderline if he could get that completion percentage up. He's not too far off on the touchdown interception ratio. He does have some rushing yards as well. I wrote it down. He's got 19 rushes for 60 yards and a touchdown, so he's got that for him as well. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see if he can close the gap. Minnesota has been playing better. He's got a good record, and so he definitely has the opportunity to change that around and get that completion percentage up, get the touchdown ratio fixed up, and that's kind of the story with all the quarterbacks. Another one here, he's really close to closing that ratio. Trevor Lawrence for the 49ers, 1,128 yards, 10 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 63%, and 81.7 rating. So he has one of the higher ratings out of all the rookie quarterbacks. He might have the highest, actually. Yeah, he does. He has the highest QB rating. He has the smallest gap to close there on the touchdown interception ratio. And 49ers has been playing really good ball. They've had some struggles on the offensive side, as you can see with the turnovers, but they play really good defense. So if they can keep that defense up and just improve their offense, this is probably the top guy that could make a run. The only problem is he doesn't have a ton of offense because his defense is so good. He kind of, if you see his offense, the output isn't too crazy. He's more of a run-heavy guy, so he's not really pass-focused. So that's why the yardage is a little bit lower than the other quarterbacks. So we'll see if maybe that'll hurt him, but he's the closest as far as getting that QB rating up and closing the gap there on the touchdown interception. He's almost there already, so he could make that flip to positive. And if his offense gets going, who knows what could happen? But yeah, he's borderline. We'll see what happens. But like I said, I don't know that any of these quarterbacks are going to end up Rookie of the Year. They've all been struggling. I got a couple more I want to go over. One is Jawan Pass. He's had struggles. 15 interceptions, four touchdowns, so that's a horrible ratio. He still somehow has a better rating than the Vikings on the QBR rating. I guess the 57% completion is the 10% makes a difference there, because his rating's even better than the Vikings, and he's got a much wider gap there on the touchdown to interception ratio. Pass does get some rushing production as well. He's got 8 for 36 and a touchdown. He's far off from being there. He's got too many turnovers there. That's bringing him down. I don't think he'll be able to close that gap. So I think he's out of it as far as Rookie of the Year. So another one I had listed was Mark Torres, but we can pretty much count him out already, because Jacksonville's, as you can see right below him, Felipe Franks, he started out the season with Mark Torres, had some good games, but then had some bad games, and it looks like he went away from him. He's been switched up to Felipe Franks. I guess he likes the way he feels play-wise. So since he's been taking that production, it pretty much put Mark Torres out of there, because he's not getting play for the rest of the season. Sorry, I had to pause for a drink there. Getting a little bit dry. So yeah, that's there's probably some more rookie quarterbacks, but I didn't want to go too deep into it, since we're getting down to the ones that there's no way that they're gonna have a chance to turn it around and get up there. So we'll go ahead and we'll move over to the running backs. Not too many impressive ones on the running backs from the rookies this year. I only wrote down a few, and really only 2 of them are notable. The third one I just kind of put on there to have one, but he's not even close. So let's see, where is he at? So our first one is Tony Jones Jr. He's been a big piece for Detroit, especially lately. He started off slow, but he's been having really big games lately. I think he's had multiple 100-yard rushing games. As you can see, he leans on him a lot with the 120 attempts, 529 yards, only 4.4 on the average. Part of that's due to the slow start. Like I said, at first he started off slow, and then he had a couple games where he played really tough defenses where he only got like 23 yards rushing, because those guys were just locking him down. But other than that, outside of that, he's been showing up. He's the best producing rookie as far as yardage and touchdowns, when we're talking about halfbacks at least. And then he's also getting some receiving production as well. I took a look and I wrote down his reception. His reception number is 24 receptions, and he's taken that for 188 yards and a touchdown. So he's pretty active in the passing as well. So he has 7 total touchdowns. 717 total yards between the rushing and the passing. So he's up there. This guy, I think, is one of them. Later on at the end of this video, I'll go ahead and I'll tell you on offense who I think will be my top 5 in the running. And I think he's going to be up there. I definitely think he's going to be up there. Let's head to the second one. A little bit of a drop here. Barnes is not too far off in yardage from Tony Jones Jr. Another one who's getting a lot of attempts, 113, but the average isn't too high there for him either. And the touchdowns haven't been there. The difference with Tony Jones Jr. and Alex Barnes is the reception yards aren't there with Alex Barnes, and the touchdowns aren't there with Alex Barnes. That's kind of the difference. And then you got about 100-yard rushing difference there. So I don't think he'll be able to make up that ground and catch up to Tony Jones Jr. I think he's going to run away with being the best rookie halfback. But Alex Barnes has been consistent. Chicago's been using him, and we should see a good season from him still regardless. I just don't think he'll catch Tony Jones Jr. And then this third one is quite a drop-off from the 2 first ones we just talked about. Really big drop-off. Britton Brown. He's the 3rd best running back out of the rookies. And that's now a CPU since we just lost the Giants. And I think the recent Giants user had been kind of moving away from Britton Brown. He was using him a little bit at first, but I saw another running back getting a lot more production as of late. So he's kind of fell off. As you can see, the attempts is only 49. He's only got 216 yards, so he's 200 yards behind the other 2 guys. And he only has 1 touchdown. So I don't see him catching back up unless the new Giants user that we bring in is just run crazy and uses the shit out of him. But I don't see him being able to catch up otherwise. And even then, it would still be hard to make up the 200 yards, even if you're a great user running the ball. So I don't think I see him being anywhere close to the top rookie on offense or even catching up to the top running backs. So that's it for the running backs. Let me grab another sip here. Sorry. So let's head to the receiving. This is the most active group we got amongst the rookies. A lot of wide receivers to talk about, so let's hop right into it. Pass him, did I? Let me switch to yards, sorry. Alright, so right here, Tyrell Shavers. We've talked about him a few times. He's been in our top 5 quite a few times, and he's been in our honorable mentions a few. And he has the top receiving total yards out of all the rookies. And he also has, actually, he's second in touchdowns. There's one other guy that's got more touchdowns than him, got 1 more touchdown than him. But he's highest in yards by a pretty good margin, over 100 yards. And he's second in touchdowns. He's definitely got the skill set. 6'6", speedster. We talked about him. Randy Moss comparisons early on. And he's just a beast. And the Jets just really liked using him. And I could definitely see this guy being a top rookie. He could be the rookie of the year on offense. Definitely, I could see it. As you can see, he's probably looking at a suspension unless some things change for the Jets. 26.4. He's got to bring that down if he doesn't want him suspended. But he's still going to have a big season regardless. He just might miss some time next year. But yeah, Tyrell Shavers has been showing up big time. And I think he might be one of the top guys when we go through my top 5. Another guy I've been big on, and it's been in our list quite a few times, is Jerry Jeudy, the wide receiver from the Dolphins. And he is second in yardage. A little low on the touchdowns. He only has 2, which actually shocked me. I feel like he had more than that, but I guess he only has 2 touchdowns. One of them was a game winner. We talked about that one last week. That was crazy. That was a fun one to watch. But this is another guy that could... He's got some catching up to do if he wants to stay on pace with Shavers. So I don't know if he'll be able to keep up with them. He's behind about 100 yards now, and he's definitely behind on the touchdowns. But, you know, one big game can change that. So we'll see what happens. But he's definitely up there as well with the top guys. And I've mentioned him quite a bit in all my rookie watches so far. He's either been a honorable mention or something. Philip Howard, he's never really been in the top 5. He tends to be kind of like a Mr. Consistent. He doesn't really have too many huge plays or anything like that, but he's usually always getting something every game. Not like Tyrell Shavers or Jerry Jeudy, where they might have like almost a 200-yard game. 200-yard game, sorry. But then they might have a game that's only like, 30 yards, 20 yards. Philip Howard, he stays pretty consistent, having at least like a 60-yard game every game. So he's Mr. Consistent. The yardage isn't as high as the other guys. He's got quite a bit of making up to do there, but 2 touchdowns. But he is a consistent guy there for Jacksonville, and I think he's going to be a good play for him. And just a few big games from him, and he could change that, and they could definitely come, especially with matchups coming up. So the next one is right below him, Eli Stove, another big play guy. He's a speedy guy for Seattle. He does a lot with his, as you can see, he makes the most of his catches. 5 touchdowns, a lot of them with, as you can see, he's got one of the highest rack numbers there at 184. So he's good at catching the ball and taking it pretty far. He's got 20 for 472, so one of the lower receptions numbers, but still pretty decently up there in the yardage. He started off kind of slow, but lately he's been having big games. I think I mentioned it on my last one. The problem is he doesn't get the ball a whole lot. He might have a game where he has 2 receptions for 110 yards, but he only catches it twice. But then he might have a game where he only catches it once for 30, or he might have a game where he catches it once for 80 and a touchdown. So he's kind of inconsistent, but as you can see, he gets to the end zone a lot. He's the highest rookie with the highest amount of reception touchdowns. He has 5, so he's just above Tyrell Shavers, has 1 more touchdown than him, and that might actually give him a boost because those touchdowns are important when it comes to picking top guys. It seems like with Madden, I don't know exactly how they balance that out, but it seems like if you have a lot of touchdowns, it gives you a huge boost. So even though he's quite a bit behind in the yardage, maybe that high touchdown number, if it stays up like that, it might close the gap and help him be a top guy. So who knows? Let's see. So these guys here that we're getting to now, I don't think quite are going to be able to make up the distance and become top guys, but they're not too far off. Rondale Moore, 400 yards, so he's not too far off, and he does have 3 touchdowns, so he's like right there middle of the pack on the touchdowns, a little bit on the lower side of the yardage, but he definitely has the skill set to do it. He's a speedy guy. He does have some touchdowns there, so he could possibly. But after this guy, I don't think the other guys that I'm going to mention will have a chance to catch up. They're pretty far behind. But Rondale Moore, I mean, he's there if he was able to get a lot of touchdowns, but he'd have to really kick up his production. But still, big season from him. He's got more receiving yards than any of my wide receivers do, so I don't know why I'm pretending like 400 isn't a lot. It actually is. So he's having a good game or a good season for a rookie. So as I mentioned, the next one's pretty far down. Trayvon Grimes, another tall, speedy guy out of this last draft, was picked up by the Patriots. He has 20 receptions for 328 yards and 2 touchdowns. So the yardage difference there, he's about 300 behind Shavers, so I don't see him catching up, building that difference. And he's not like Eli Stove where he has a lot of more touchdowns. So I don't see him being able to close that gap and being above those guys, but he definitely has potential for like top 5. Definitely he'll be top 10 regardless, but he could move up into the top 5 if Patriots steps up that offense and gets them more involved. He could definitely do that. He definitely has a skill set. And one more I wanted to mention, Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's pretty far out, and we finally got a new Steelers user, and the Natural was saying good things about him, so maybe that could mean good things for Amon-Ra St. Brown. The other guy ended up quitting the league, and Steelers was CPU for a little while, so that kind of probably hurt his production. He was on our top 5 list a couple times beginning of the season, but since it's kind of been the CPU, he hasn't made our list too much, and he's kind of dropped off. As you can see, he's only got 18. That's one of the lower numbers from all the rookies we've mentioned so far, or it is the lowest number of receptions, I should say, and also the lowest yards that we've mentioned so far. He only has 1 touchdown, so a lot of making up to do there. I don't think he's going to be able to close the distance, but it does sound like the natural saying this new user is pretty talented, and so we could see. We're waiting on that first game between him and the Browns. Got postponed tonight, but we'll see tomorrow how he does, and maybe that could be something that could turn it around for Amon-Ra St. Brown, having a good coach come in and use him efficiently. Alrighty. So let me move over to the tight ends. There is some more rookie wide receivers, but I'm not gonna go too deep in that. So I don't want to make this video last forever. So now we're going to go into the tight ends. Let me do this so I can find tight ends easier. So our top tight end is the Seattle tight end, Jake Hausman. He's made our list a few times, top 5. He's been on the honorable mentions. He has 22 receptions for 419 and 2 touchdowns. So he's up there. He's up there with some of those rookie wide receivers we mentioned. He would actually, if we slotted him in with the wide receivers, he'd actually be right in the middle of those guys, nearly with as much production as Eli Stove. Not as many touchdowns as him, but he's right there in the yardage. So he would actually be, as far as tight ends, he's far above the rest. And even in the wide receiver, he compares to some of those guys. So he's been really good for Seattle. He's one to look out for. I don't know that as a tight end he's going to get enough looks and touchdowns to make a Rookie of the Year run, but he's definitely one to watch out for. And he's far above the rest of these tight ends. So the second one is right below him, T.J. Hawkinson. He has 22 receptions for 285 yards, no touchdowns. So yeah, the no touchdowns is hurting him. As you can see, he's well over 100 yards behind Hausman already. But as I said, Steelers has a new owner, so that could be good for all the players around, depending on his play. If he's really good, that could benefit the tight end, the wide receivers. Who knows? We're yet to find out, but could be a benefit to him and could help boost him for the rest of the season. So we'll see how that plays out. Let's see, where's our next one? Hopefully I didn't. Yeah, I probably already passed him. Sorry, let me backpedal here a little bit. So our third one is Thaddeus Moss, and this one is interesting because he has 26 catches, 275 yards. That's obviously well behind Jake Hausman in terms of reception yards, but the kicker is that Thaddeus Moss is a touchdown monster. He has 6 touchdowns. He's outscoring all of the wide receivers. He's outscoring every rookie, actually. Even Tony Jones Jr. only has, well, Tony Jones Jr. has 6 combined, so they're right there tied. But he's up there in those touchdowns, so I don't know how that'll play out, actually. If he keeps those touchdowns up, who knows how that'll play out. He could jump above a lot of people with those touchdowns. Because it seems like in the past they really value those touchdowns when it comes to the rookie guys or any of the top ones, MVP, whatever it may be, Rookie of the Year. They value the touchdowns, but I just still don't see a tight end being the top guy. I think those rookies are going to be too far, or rookie wide receivers, I should say, are going to be too far ahead as far as yardage goes, and some of them are going to close that touchdown gap. So we'll see how it plays out. We'll see how his touchdown stays. That could be interesting to see. I don't know how much the difference between yardage and touchdown, how they make that comparison when they're picking Rookies of the Year and MVP. So I'm not quite knowledgeable on that, but it just seems like with touchdowns, that's why it's interesting to me, is because with as many touchdowns as he has, who knows what could happen. But yeah, I don't want to say that one more time and repeat myself again. So let's move on from that one. So I feel like I just said that same thing like 3 times in a row. Sorry about that. So the next one is Brock Wright. He has 23 for 242 and a touchdown. He's doing good for Tennessee. They like using him, it seems like. Like I said, with the tight ends, unless it's like Moss where you have a ton of touchdowns and then the yardage is much less, I don't think they're going to have a chance. But he's just one to look out for. One more I wanted to mention was, let's see if we can find out. There he is. Aaron Hansford from Carolina. Sorry, brain fart. He has 11 for 231. So he has a lower reception number, but he's getting up there in the yards. He's catching up to those guys. He's just behind them. He's had some big games recently from Carolina. He's stepped up, so we'll see how he continues to progress, and he's just another one to look out for. I don't expect these tight ends to make too much of a run for that position, but just a guy to look out for. Wanted to go over some of those guys. So I think with that, we can go ahead and move on to defense. Or you know what? Actually, before we jump into defense, on offense, let me just go ahead and I'll just say now who I think my top 5 is going to be for Rookie of the Year. At the end of the year, I think these guys are going to be the ones in the running. And I'll do kind of a 5-to-1 thing like I have been, but we'll go off the total. I think at number 5, most of these are going to be wide receivers because, I mean, their production is just well above anyone else. The only one I can see sneaking in there is maybe, like I said, Thaddeus Moss, interesting with the touchdowns. But Jake Houseman also, he's up there with some of those wide receivers. So I could see him sneaking in there. He's not too far off from Eli Stove. So it's mostly going to be wide receivers, but I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to throw Jake Houseman on there at number 5. Even though he's a tight end, I think it's kind of a slim chance. I still got to throw one of those guys on there because he's just been playing so well, and he's right behind Eli Stove, and I think Eli Stove is right there in the top 5 as well. And he's pretty close. He has 22 receptions for 419 yards and 2 touchdowns. So if he continues that, I think it's a possibility. I think it's a pretty slim chance he does. But I'll say number 5, he could be top 5 of those rookies. Number 4, I'm going to say Eli Stove. He's a little bit on the lower end of the reception yards at the moment. But with all those touchdowns, he's up there. He has 400 yards. And he also has the 5 touchdowns, which is the highest amongst the wide receivers. And only Thaddeus Moss, the tight end, has him beat. But Eli Stove has well over 200 yards on him there. So I think he's going to be up there. And if he continues those touchdowns, I mean, Stove could go as far up as the top. But I'm going to put him at 4 for now just because the yardage is a little bit lower. I think the touchdowns might fall off. He's had a few games where he just had huge ones and got a touchdown. And I mean, that can continue, but I feel like that doesn't happen that often, like every game. So I think it's going to fall off a little bit on the touchdown numbers, but if they continue, he could definitely be up there at the top. Number 3, I'm going to go with Jerry Jeudy. He's been on my list quite a bit. He's been clutch for the Dolphins. It seems like the Dolphins gets more and more comfortable with him every week. So I only see his production going up and up and up and up and up. So that's why I think even though he doesn't have the touchdown amount like Eli Stove does, he only has 2 touchdowns. But he's up there in the yards. He has over 520 yards. And he's just getting more and more production every week. So I think that has the potential to put him up there. Now, it's hard for me. Between the 1 and 2, it's between the running back, Tony Jones Jr. at Detroit, and Tyrell Shavers, the wide receiver from the New York Giants. And I think I'm going to go ahead and put Tyrell Shavers at number 2. Um, Tony Jones Jr. is just getting used everywhere so much that I feel like he's going to have a ton of touchdowns. He's going to have reception production. He's going to have rushing yards. He's getting more and more each game. The Lions seems to have their running game going now. He's had a couple tough matchups where he couldn't get it going. But as long as he's not playing a top guy with a top defense, it seems like he gets that running game going. And then even if he's playing a top defense, he can't get the running game going, he's still using him in the passing game. So I think just that combination is just going to give him that much more of a boost over Tyrell Shavers. Shavers, I think, is a beast. He could be number one. It could easily go either way between these two guys. And Shavers is by far the best wide receiver out there amongst the rookies right now. But I just think that combo of receptions and rushing by Tony Jones Jr. and just the volume he's getting over there in Detroit is gonna put him above. I feel like the Jets struggle some games, and there's some games where Shavers can fall off, and then he has a good matchup where Shavers can have a huge game, like 200-yard games. So kind of depends on his schedule. I'd have to take a better look at that. I probably should have done that before I did this video, but since I didn't, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go with Tony Jones Jr. and say that the production is going to be just a bit above, and he's my top contender for Rookie of the Year on the offensive side. So yeah, now we can go ahead and move to defense. All right, sorry. So right here at the very top, we have Richard LeConte III. He has the highest, right now we're going off of total tackles. So he has the highest total tackles out of all the rookies. He's got 53 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 6 interceptions, 1 deflection, 1 fumble recovery. So yeah, he's been showing up. He's been a big play guy for Detroit. You guys heard the league report with the Patriots. You heard me mention him. Said he was a good pickup for the Lions, and he definitely has been top rookie in tackles. But he's also, I mean, he's getting it done all around. He's getting some tackles for loss. He's getting 6 interceptions. That's great. I think that's tied for 4th amongst like all the rookies. Or actually, I think that's tied for 4th in the league. So I think 6 interception is tied for 4th in the league. Let me check that. Make sure I'm right on that. So there's 1, there's 2, 3, and then yeah. So yeah, 6 interceptions. There's a lot of 6 interceptions. So take that with a grain of salt. But he's still number 4 tied. So he's getting it done in the tackling department, and he's getting some interceptions too. So he's doing really well there. Not so much on the deflections. Hasn't made any touchdowns or forced any fumbles or anything. But he's still doing big things with the interceptions and the tackles. So he's definitely going to be a top guy for the defenses. Heading down, here's another one, Dorian Etheridge, the middle linebacker. We've talked about him a lot. He's been in a top 5 or honorable mentions every week since we started the rookie watch. So yeah, he's doing big things. He's got 51 total tackles, so he's not too far behind Richard LeConte, just barely behind him there with a couple tackles. But he's also got 6 tackles for loss. He's got 2 sacks, 9 interceptions. And that 9 interceptions is actually second in the league, only behind Mosley. So that's big. That's really big. He's also got 4 deflections, so he's keeping the ball out of dude's hands, not just with interceptions, but batting him down as well. That's pretty big. And he's played 1 less game than Richard LeConte, so. And he's right there with them, man. So, yeah, it's close between those two, but those are definitely 2 of our top guys right there. Let's keep moving on. Devon Hunter, the middle linebacker from Tampa Bay. He's been on our top 5 before. He's been on our honorable mentions. Not as much as Etheridge, but he's definitely been there. He has 45 total tackles. He's got 12 tackles for loss, and that's the highest number amongst the rookies as far as tackles for loss go. So that's a big number for him. He's got a half a sack, 2 interceptions, 1 deflection. Yeah, and that's it. So that's Devon Hunter. So yeah, it looks like he's getting guys in the backfield a lot. He's stopping the run for them probably. It seems like, because he doesn't have a lot of sacks, but he's definitely getting those tackles for loss. So he's busting through that line, and he's getting those tackles, stopping the run game. That's big. He'll probably be a top guy as well. Amari Burney, another guy that's been on our. I'm not sure if he made it. I think he did make a top 5. He did make a top 5 one week, and he's been in our honorable mentions quite a few times. He has 43 total tackles. He has 7 tackles for loss. He's got 1 interception. 6 deflections. I think that's the highest deflection number out of all the rookies. Yeah, it is. Highest deflection number, so he's making impact there. Let's keep moving on. Gervon Hall, he's got 41 total tackles, an interception, deflection. Okay. So he's not creating a lot of turnovers like these other guys are. He's only got the 1 interception. He's not getting in the backfield a lot with the tackles for loss or sacks. But he's still active. He's making tackles, gets an interception on occasion, and bats a ball down. So not too bad. Kenneth Murray Jr., the middle linebacker from Tennessee. I don't think he's made a top 5, but he's definitely been in our honorable mentions. A lot of these guys have. 39 total tackles for him, 1 tackle for loss, 1 sack, 2 interceptions, 3 deflections, forced fumble, 7 game played. So yeah, he's kind of doing everything. That's always good to see. He's getting tackles. He not too many tackles for loss and sacks, but he can do it, as you can see. Gets some interceptions, some deflections, so he's good in coverage, and can still get a sack or a tackle for loss every once in a while. Nothing crazy. That's good. Let's see. Anthony Litton. That's the cornerback from 49ers. He's got 36 total tackles, 3 sacks, which is surprising for a cornerback. But yeah, he's got 3 sacks, 7 interceptions. That's a big number. And the real kicker there is the interception yards, 110. So when he gets the ball, he usually has a lot of space and makes you pay for it. 3 pass deflections, 2 forced fumbles, and a recovery. And he's the only rookie with a defensive touchdown. So that's big. So surprisingly, at the cornerback position, he does a lot. He gets the tackles, he gets the sacks. It's 3 sacks. That's more than most of the linebackers we've mentioned so far and safeties we mentioned so far. So that's kind of surprising coming from a cornerback. 7 interceptions, and he usually does big things with them. He's took one for a touchdown, getting deflections as well. So he's a big player for the San Francisco 49ers and their great defense. We've been talking about how good their defense has been this year, and he's a big part of that. So all right, Derek Allen. I think he's going to be the last one we're going to mention here. I think anybody else is kind of far out from these guys. So there's definitely still some other guys, but they're a little bit lower tier than these guys. So we'll stop here with Derek Allen, but he plays for the Baltimore Ravens. He's got 35 total tackles. He's got 4 tackles for loss, 5 sacks. That's the most amongst these rookies we've mentioned so far. He's got 5 deflections as well, so he's playing the pass. 1 forced fumble. And he's had 7 games as well. So he's doing big things. He's definitely making an impact there with the sacks. As I mentioned, he's the highest amongst the rookies we mentioned there. He's also getting tackles for loss. But also, he hasn't had any interceptions, but he is getting the deflection, so he's playing the ball. He's keeping dudes from getting it in their hands, so that's big still. So he's another good guy to look out for. So let's see. If I were to have to do a top 5 on the defense right now, I think hands down number 1 is Dorian Etheridge. He's got the 9 interceptions. He's right there in tackles with Richard LeConte, which was the leader of total tackles amongst all the rookies. And he's right there with one less game. He's already had his bye week, so he's definitely going to catch up when the Lions has their bye week. I think he'll close that gap. And he's got him beat on interceptions. And the way he uses that player, I don't think that's going to stop. I think that number is just going to keep going up. He's an all-around player, getting in the backfield, tackles for loss, sacks, interceptions, deflections. And so he's kind of right up there at the top in everything. And he's leading the pack for those rookies in interceptions. He's right up there in tackles for loss. He's up there in tackles. So he kind of does everything. So I think he's hands down kind of the number one right now. And number 2 is Richard LeConte, the third. I mean, he's giving him his competition right there. Like I said, he's played one more game, so the total tackles there, he's above him. But I think that'll change once they kind of catch up after that bye week. But he's not too far off in interceptions. He's not making an impact in the sacks like Etheridge is. But they're pretty close. They're almost identical with just like a few stat. I mean, he's got the plus on the tackles, but Etheridge has got the plus on the interceptions. They're really close to each other, but I think Etheridge will edge him out by the end of the season by a good bit. But he's still definitely in contention for that, and he could prove me wrong, and he could definitely be top defensive guy for the rookies. Number 3 is actually a shocker because he's kind of lower down on the list. But I just feel like where he's making an impact is more important, and that's the 49ers cornerback Anthony Litton. I just think that where he's making an impact with the interceptions, and then he's able to do a lot with those interceptions. He's he's actually the only rookie on here that we've mentioned that's been able to get one to the touchdown. He's doing deflections. He's still, even as a cornerback, getting sacks. So I just feel like when he makes plays, it's impact plays. And I feel like that's big and can push him ahead. With the interceptions and seemingly being able to, once he gets an interception, do things with it every time. I don't know if he's just baiting offenses into thinking a guy's wide open on the sideline and he just swoops in and he's able to take it for a pick six or take it for a big gain, but it seems like he's doing that a lot, so there must be something in the game plan, because a lot of these times he's been on my list, I'm noticing, man, he's got a lot of damn interception return yards in that game, and it's been that way when we've mentioned him in the top 5 before, so it just seems like impact plays he makes, so that's why I put him up there at number 3 over some of these other guys with higher tackle numbers and tackles for loss and stuff. I just feel like he makes impact plays. And I feel like that could push him above as far as the defensive player goes. Like I said, I don't really know how they factor in total tackles as compared to interception amounts, touchdown amounts. I don't know how much deflections make a difference. It's hard to say with Madden because they're not clear on that kind of stuff. But it seems like, interceptions and you're able to do things and make touchdowns, that's a big difference, and he's definitely able to do that. Kind of like Etheridge. Etheridge just doesn't make as big of plays with the ball after he intercepts it, but I think Etheridge will be more active and have more opportunities to get interceptions. But Litton will be right up there with him in the interceptions. I think he's only 2 behind right now. He's not far off, and he's definitely been able to do bigger things, so that could be a game changer. And let me move on. Number 4, I mentioned Devon Hunter. He's up there with more tackles. Let me see if I can find him. There he is. Yeah, so he has 45 tackles, so he has well over 10 more. And he's got the 12 tackles for loss. That's big. That was the big thing. It always helps when you can make an offense lose yards right out the gate when they're trying to run the ball set the pace. You make them nervous. You tackle them in the backfield. You get them to shy away from the run game. Then they make bad decisions, especially with his great defense. So the way he's been able to do that and throw guys off, get them out of their element, make them pass, make them force things, get them out of their running. If they're a run-heavy team, get them out of that because they're getting stops behind the backfield frequently, as you can see, with just by himself 12 tackles for loss behind the line. So that's great. That's big, and he's still getting interceptions. Not as high up there on the sacks as I would have thought, but he's getting interceptions. He's got some deflections. So I think Devon Hunter, he has a chance with all those tackles for loss, and I don't think he'll catch up with guys like Dorian Etheridge as far as that middle linebacker position. I think Etheridge is far above him, but Devon Hunter is definitely still a quality player, good run stopper, and he's going to do big things for the Bucs. And the fifth one, I think I'll go with Derek Allen. That's the other middle linebacker from Baltimore. Let me see if I can find him here. I think when I mentioned him earlier, he had the highest sacks out of all the rookies. So let's just go there. That'll help me. Yeah, he had a lot of beasts this year, as you can see. There he is. So he has 35 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 5 deflections. I think it was the reason why I wanted to put him top 5 is just the diversity there. He's able to stop the run. He's getting tackles in. He's making sacks. And even though he hasn't made a huge impact on the interceptions and stuff, that's probably why he's on the lower end compared to these other guys. But he's still able to make a difference in coverage, as you can see with the 5 deflections. So he's still doing good coverage for Baltimore, one of the better defenses, and he's the highest sack amount out of all the rookies that we've mentioned. So he's up there. He's also stopping the run in the backfield and getting tackles. So I don't think he'll get up there at the top, but he's definitely a guy to look out for. Definitely top 5 on the defensive side. I think he'll end in the season. And that'll do it. That'll do it for this Week 8 recap. Sorry if I had a little bit of trouble there at the end. This is like the longest video that I've done. My mouth is dry as fuck. I'm doing this all in one take, and I'm just not used to doing a long video like this. So cut me some slack. If there's a lot of uhs and stuff, I didn't script this out or anything before. I'm just going off what I'm seeing on the screen. I wrote some players down, but other than that, that's all I got to go off of, and this has been a longer one for me. So I hope you guys still enjoy it. I hope it was a good video for you. Hope you like this mid-season thing, and let me know what you guys think. Who do you guys think? Tell me in the chat. Who do you guys think's top 5 defense? Do you guys like my picks? You guys think I'm retarded for picking this? Oops, I forgot you can't say retarded anymore. Do you guys think I'm dumb for picking these guys? What the hell am I doing? Why am I the guy doing these rookie watch? What's my issue? If you guys are thinking that, let me know. I want to hear it all, good and bad. Let me know so I can improve. But yeah, I hope you like this, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.